This is a Mazda Protege 2000, that's 1.8, and the car was randomly overheating. I have rented a tool from AutoZone to test the pressure and apply the pressure onto the cooling system and discovered that the pressure is being dropped. Couldn't find a leak, and after searching for some time I discovered that one of the freeze plugs is actually busted, and it's right there. That's one of the front ones. There are 4 in the front and there are 4 in the back. I have had that happen before, where the one in the back has failed, and now it's the one that's up front. In order for you to replace it, you would have to remove the the air box, the cover, and the exhaust manifold. I believe it's called exhaust manifold. Also, you'll need to get the power steering out of the way. You don't have to disconnect it. All you need to do is just remove the bolts and nuts that are holding it together to remove the bracket, because there's a bracket that actually is on the way here, and it does not allow for you to remove the exhaust unless you remove the bracket first. And in order to do that, in order to remove this particular bracket right here, that's what it was, like that, I believe, like so. In order to remove it, you need to remove your pump, and it's easy to remove the pump. It's 4 bolts, 2 bolts, one long one and one onto the side that's holding it. And once it's there, you can just disconnect it and move it back up. Just the wires, not the cables. You don't want just the cable disconnect, and no none of that other stuff. You need to disconnect, none of the tubes. So here's the leak. I'll be replacing it. In order for me to replace that, first of all, I'm going to go ahead and remove this one. I'll probably drill a little hole and use some kind of a hooking device to pull that thing out. Then clean the surface and replace it with the other one. These two freeze plugs, they come in 2 different sizes. One of them is larger than the other one, so make sure when you do go and buy some in AutoZone, whatever the parts of store of your choice, you will need to make sure you take 2 different sizes. Yeah, so there is that. I'll continue back when I'll replace the thingy, and let's go and drill a hole. Thank you. Part number 2, have removed the plug. The plug has been removed. What I used is, and first I'll drill the hole, regular drill bit, and then I use this tool to push the plug back inside. Once it was inside, I used this device. What do I do with it? Let me show it to you. It's like a hook, and I can't seem to find it. Well, that's usually the case with all of the tools. Anyway, it's like a hook with the wooden handle. There you go, it's right there. I don't know, I found that one on yard sale somewhere. And once I made a hole and I pushed the thing through, I was able to move the plug out. It is gone. I don't have it. I don't know what I did with it, but I wanted to show you. It's totally gone. While I was the plug was removed, I actually flushed the system. Put the hose back here and here. Make sure it's all flushed. Now I'm going to use a little sandpaper and do some sanding. And then I'll heat up the surface just a little bit to make sure it's all nice and dry. Then I'll apply the new coat. These are the freeze plugs. Let me see how the size of those two. The first one is bigger in diameter, the other one is smaller. Around the coat, that's the item number for the small one, 30.06 millimeters, and this one is 138, and that's inches. So one of them is larger than the other one. Like I said, there's 2 different sizes that are on the car. I'm going to be using this one. Around the rim of it, I'll apply some Loctite blue, not the red one but blue, just to keep it in place. You don't have to do that, but I've done it previously on replacing the plugs on the back, and it seemed like it helped. Well, I don't know if it helped, but it's still there. It's not going anywhere. So there's that. Okay, so let me go ahead and replace the plug. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, like I said, probably will use a socket. spark plug socket to drive the new plug in. There's plenty of room to do that. Sorry, right there. Thank you. I can show it to you. Here it is. It was really not even challenging. This is what I use. It's like a 17mm socket, a little extension to it. And I just placed it this way and tapped it with my hammer. There's plenty of room. And it went in. You don't want to go too far in. You don't want to go too far in, and you don't want to go stay out. Just so you can see a little lip there. That's it. As long as you are able to see the lip, I think you're going to be alright. So what I'm going to do now is fill up the system with water, close all the plugs, and test the pressure in the system. And I'll show you how to do that as well. Give me one moment, please. Getting ready to fill up the system with water. I have previously removed this little plastic screw with a Phillips screwdriver right on the bottom here. The bottom of the radiator. It's on the bottom of the radiator. For those of you who doesn't know, this is the point where you unscrew it, and that's how you flush the system through here. In order to be able to remove that, you don't have to actually remove the cover. The cover has an opening here for it specifically. But if it's off, it's right there. You just place it back up. And now I'll use my Phillips screwdriver to tighten it up. I've done it so many times, I know exactly already where is it. I can feel it with my hand. And there it is. This is done. Time to fill this up. Everything is good. We are ready to test the system. We are now going to use the pump that I was talking about, that I rented from the AutoZone, and pump 16 psi in it. 16, that is 1, 5. There you go, that's 15. We're going to pump 16. The reason why we chose 16 is because I believe that my pressure is rated at 16 psi. The way you can test it is you go onto any parts website and you look up radiator cap like this one. If you look at the specification of this cap, it doesn't say here, but if you look at the specification of the cap that is required for this car, it is required to be 16 psi. 16 psi. So at 16 psi, this is the point at which this cap will start to let the air out, and I'm assuming so this would be enough to test the system at 16 psi. Let's go ahead and pump this air in, and there's water in the system already, so we'll see what's going to happen. Alright guys, 16 psi is in. And we're going to have to wait and see how long is it going to take. Is it going to be able to hold? Is it going to lose pressure? Is it going to bubble? Is any of this going to happen? We'll leave it for 10-15 minutes and come back. If you would have a leak, oftentimes park your car somewhere in a quiet area. Like I was able to detect mine because you see the air begin to drop slowly. If it drops fast, you have a major leak. If it's very slowly, you have a small leak. It's easy to do it when you have the liquid coolant inside the system. That way you can see it spraying out. You could detect it that way easier. Sometimes you can't actually detect anything. You cannot see it seeping in, but you can hear the noise. You can put your ear close to the engine and just listen for hissing sounds. That's how you determine if your system is holding well. So far it's looking good. I don't even have to probably, I'll wait a little longer, but I'm going to start assembling parts together, and I'm starting putting things back together. And I'm gonna go get me a new gasket, exhaust gasket. It seems like this one is cracked, and probably gonna need a new one. If I'm not gonna find a new one, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna reuse some of the RTV silicone. I have used it before on this port particularly, red RTV silicone, and it actually held really well. It's this color. This is a water pump, by the way, guys. This where your thermostat is located. 1.8 Mazda Protege 2000. The location of the thermostat right there. It's easy to get to it. You don't have to remove anything. I mean, it is nice to see it now, but if everything is intact, you can still get to it by putting your hand here. Two 12mm bolts, sorry. Removes it really easy. And that's where the location of the thermostat is. Some cars have it on this side, on the side of the radiator. Not this one, guys. This one has it at the return line. So there you go. Let's wait and see. So far, looks good. So far it's still 16. There's no leak. I guess we fixed the problem. I'm gonna go ahead and assemble the whole thing, and we'll go from there. Thank you. So guys, we are continuing to put things together, and right now I'm about to place back the exhaust manifold, reusing this gasket. I applied some of the silicone on it. The one I use for this purpose is called Yamabond. Oftentimes that one I used to put crankcases together with two-stroke engines. Seems to be working well in the exhaust pipes and stuff, so I'm just apply the thin coat onto it. I'm reusing this gasket, and I am not reusing this one. That one came off completely bad, so there is that. And placing it back together, and then we're going to torque everything down according to the sequence. You can probably find a sequence online if you want to. Alright, let's go ahead and proceed. Guys, the exhaust manifold is on. It didn't take a long time to do it, but you know, I lost a bolt here and there, a nut, and this is a usual practice for me, so I had to find another one. Spent my time digging through the garage. When you tighten these up, you do want to make sure that you follow the sequence. You can download the sequence of the torque online, or if you have been doing this for a while, you pretty much know. You kind of start from the center. You go crisscross, center, and then all the way out. And this one on the bottom, and this one on the bottom, this one on top. And then just keep doing it. Don't torque it all at once. Do a little bit here first. Not so tight, but just tighten it up. And first you do it by hand. Everything is done by hand. You know, put a sucker on it and just do it by hand. But then just apply a little bit of pressure to it, but not too much. It has to be tight gradually. Same as this one. You got the 5 bolts. You start with this one, and then you go over to the next one, and then you go right here, and that you go right there, and there. Crisscross, and just keep doing the same thing. Don't over tighten it. If you have a torque wrench, that would be a good idea to use it. Mine gave up, so I have been torquing things by hand, kind of by feel. Haven't failed me yet. Thank you. We'll go ahead and start putting on the steering, power control. That should not take a while. I don't anticipate that. We'll see in a minute. It's back up together. Put everything together. Okay, so I've done it many times, so it doesn't take me to do it a long time. One last test. I just added some water, and I have pumped to 16 psi into it. We'll wait a few minutes to see if the pressure will go down. I've tested before, it didn't seem like the case. if you do seem to observe that the pressure is going down, always guys check this fitting. Make sure you fiddle with it. Sometimes the rubber piece doesn't really stick together well. You need to clean it. Put some oil on the plastic here so it will stick together really well. Alright, let you know how it goes.